Now, today for our daily cancellation, I'm afraid that we must go once again and plunge the depraved depths of the cyber sewage dump known as TikTok. I've been accused of leaning too heavily on TikTok for my cancellations. But first of all, again, mind your own business. Second of all, there's just a lot of unintentionally hilarious stuff there. And third, this is the app that the kids are using and being influenced by. So at a certain point, we have to stop with this really kind of foolish thing of acting like the content that our kids, not my kids, but a lot of people's kids, spend hours a day ingesting is somehow frivolous and unimportant. It may be stupid, it may be embarrassing, but it's not frivolous because it's what's helping to shape the next generation for better or worse. And in this case, worse. With that said, we have to cancel a guy named Ryan McCartan. Or Ryan McCarran, one of the two. Anyway, he has a huge following on TikTok and apparently is an actor or something. And there's one video in particular that puts him in line to be canceled today. But going through his catalog, as I did, it seems that many TikTok users come to him for advice and wisdom, and he's eager to offer it. So as an example of that, here's a recent video where he gives his mind-blowing, totally unique perspective on the abortion debate. You're not going to believe this. Listen.
So there are three parts of this conversation to me: the science of abortion, the history of abortion, and the debate about abortion. I want to talk about the debate right now, but let me know if you want to hear the other stuff. The debate about abortion is, are you pro-choice or pro-life? And that just sets up a false dichotomy, because the opposite of pro-life is anti-life. No one is anti-life. And we aren't actually talking about life, we're talking about birth. So then the debate would be pro-birth or anti-birth, and that doesn't make any sense either. So you go back to our original terms, choice. I think that's what the debate is about. Are you pro-choice or are you anti-choice? And the thing that just really bothers me about this argument, A, is that liberals have succumbed to this idea of arguing with a pro-life stance when we're not talking about life, we're talking about choice. But also, the conservative thinking in America is all about limiting government to not step in on our individual liberties to make our own choices about our lives. So I don't understand why liberals and conservatives aren't actually on the same page about this. The government should not make any choices about what we do with our individual liberties regarding our own bodies, no matter who we are, what we look like, or what our bodies do.
Wow. Wow. Just incredible. So he wants to, let me see if I got this correctly. He wants to reframe the debate as pro-choice or anti-choice. I have never heard that before. I mean, this has completely altered the way I view this issue. I have simply never heard someone make the anti-choice point before. It's amazing. No one's ever said this. That's why this guy's so proud of himself when he makes this point. You know, I've been thinking about this, and I think this is about choice. Huh? This man is a philosopher for the ages. If Socrates came across this guy, Socrates would poison himself again just because he's so depressed that he'll never be as smart and insightful as Ryan McCartan or McCarran. All that said, yes, actually the issue is about life. The fundamental question is whether the baby in the womb is a human life and whether as a human life it has the same moral worth and is therefore entitled to the same legal protections as a born person. Now, I say yes. If Ryan McCartan says no, he should explain why his answer is no. But people on the anti-life side rarely want to defend that part of their argument. Now, as for the government not telling us what to do with our bodies, well, okay then. So I assume you're an avid anti-masker in that case. That's the government telling you what to do with your body. Oh, but that's different, you say. It's different because if you don't wear a mask, you could harm somebody else. Ah, okay. So you could do what you want with your body up to the point where you're potentially inflicting harm on another person. Well, the unborn human who is poisoned, dismembered, or decapitated through the course of the abortion, I mean, would you say that qualifies as harm? Oh, but that's different, you say, because the unborn human doesn't count. Well, what do you know? We're right back to a debate about life and its definition, which is exactly what you said the debate is not about. But it turns out that is what the debate is always about. It can't be about anything else. So that's Ryan McCartan on abortion. Now, let's hear what he has to say about racism.
I am the oppressor. I am racist. Oh my God, he just said he's racist. It shouldn't be this hard, you guys. If you live in America, went to school, participate in the socioeconomic structures, participate in any sort of system, education, business, entertainment, what have you, and you are white, you are indoctrinated, you are oppressive, and yes, you are racist. It is something that we have learned, either consciously or subconsciously, all of us as white Americans. And what we have to do is unlearn that. I'm trying to do the work. Part of doing the work is pushing against dangerous narratives that are counterintuitive to that unlearning, like white people are also oppressed by racism. We're not. We are the oppressors. That's the point. You should be doing the unlearning too. Do the work.
I love this guy's dance moves, the choreography while he makes his point. I don't know what all this, you can't see it if you're listening to audio podcast, but he's got this certain move that he does. It's like watching NSYNC or something in the 90s. It's all the choreography. But first of all, if I live my whole life and never again hear the phrase "do the work" from somebody who does not appear to have ever done any kind of work at all in their lives, I will die a happy man. Second, I'm not going to spend a lot of time debunking this notion that only white people are racist because only they have systemic power, yada, yada, et cetera. I've addressed that many times, and as I've explained, it is built on numerous false assertions, starting with the idea that power has anything necessarily to do with racism, and also the idea that only white people have systemic power. We could look around right now and see every major corporation bending over backwards to affirm the most radical tenets of BLM orthodoxy. We could see that the same is true of politicians and bureaucrats and almost everybody who wields serious power in this country. We can also see that the only form of explicit racial systemic bias that's allowed in this country is the kind that cuts against white people, like affirmative action. All of that is clear. So this from Ryan McCartan and those like him is nothing but a doctrinal statement. It's not based on any kind of evidence or logic, except an internal logic within the critical race theory cult. And even there, internally, there isn't much logic to it. Just remember, anytime somebody says, only white people can be racist, all you have to do is respond with one question. This is what I would respond with. Says who? Oh, only white people can be racist. Okay? Says who? Who says that? You do, but where are you getting that from? Why should I accept your definition of racism? I understand that that's your claim, that's your belief, but why should I give a damn? Why should I believe it? And I guess if you want to follow up with another question, you could also ask this. Did racism exist 1,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago? 3,000 years ago? Did it exist in ancient times? Did racism exist back when people were slaughtering and enslaving outsiders just as a matter of course? Because if racism is inherent to white people because of their systemic power, then it must mean that racism didn't exist before white people as we know them now existed or before they had this kind of power. I mean, you go back through history and you find that the most powerful empires back in ancient times were in places like Egypt and Mesopotamia. Was there no racism then? Was it an anti-racist utopia which just so happened to subsist on slavery and conquest? So that's a question you could ask. But what I want to focus on is something else. At a deeper level is the guilt. You know, I've long suspected that one of the things that makes this all white people are racist idea appealing is the way that it explains and channels guilt. Now, for non-white people, the appeal is pretty straightforward. They're absolved of racism permanently, and they're positioned as the automatic good guy in any dispute with a white person. That's a hell of a deal if you can get it. But for white people, part of the appeal, I think, is religious in nature. You know, what is it that will oftentimes, you think about it, what will oftentimes get a person to go to church after a long time away? They're feeling burdened by their sin. They're feeling guilty. They're looking for absolution, for something to, they want something to do with this guilt that they're carrying around. But with theistic religion receding, and with many of the remaining churches too afraid to talk about guilt and sin anyway, things like critical race theory step into the gap. Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are burdened, and I will give you rest." Well, those who are burdened and not going to Jesus have to go somewhere else. CRT, critical race theory, is a substitute for some people. Only it's not going to offer rest or absolution. Instead, it just offers more guilt. But at least it explains and clarifies the guilt, or claims to. It puts everything in racial terms and gives confused and desperate people a framework for understanding themselves and their own internal struggles. The framework is wrong and evil, but hey, at least it's a framework. To paraphrase the Big Lebowski. All that said, the other possible explanation, all that is, maybe that's why, if I want to go to at a real deep, like psychological and philosophical level, maybe that's why someone like Ryan McCartan is so eager to call himself racist. Maybe. The other possible explanation for why Ryan McCartan says he's racist is that he's actually racist. I mean, that is what he's saying. Maybe we should just take him seriously. Maybe when a white person gets up and says, I'm racist, we should just say, oh, okay, well, sorry to hear about that. And then when he says, yeah, but all of you are too, we say, no, not me. I don't know, man. Speak for yourself. You already said it. You've made your claim. I'm not joining you. I'm not giving you any cover here. So hate to hear about that. I'm sorry. Shouldn't be racist. That sucks, man. Thanks for telling us. Just because you are doesn't mean that I am, Ryan. Speak for yourself. And maybe in the end, maybe that is the one needed response to the critical race theory cultists. Speak for yourself. Also, you're canceled. So those two things. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.